Taylor just launched this, the new Builder's Edition 814 CE. Today we're going to talk about how it compares to the original 814 CE that's available. Stay tuned. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name's Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music Center in San Antonio, Texas, and you can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, and like our videos. If you want to support the channel, visit our spring store link below for custom swag and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts. So this is a follow-up to the first video that you will have seen, hopefully at this point, which is our full review of this new guitar. This is the Builder's Edition 814 CE. If you have not seen that video, you should go watch that and then come back to this video. We break down all of the specifics of this guitar, which is, spoiler, a killer guitar. But with a new model like this, it begs the question, how does it compare? So we wanted to do that for you, talk a little bit more about the Builder's Edition 814 CE, what is different on it from the 814C that is currently in the lineup and available, and also let's hear the differences between them, as well as talk about some of the playability differences, because that's a big factor in what's going on here.
Yeah. So I got the regular 814 CE. Ever heard of it? It is probably, if we were to make a list of the most popular models, at least in our store, and I'm assuming every other store out there, this is always going to make that list.
Well, it's called the Flagship for a reason.
It's the Flagship.
Yeah.
And since I think Taylor is pretty smart and pretty good at what they do look pretty similar, but there are a couple aesthetic differences, and then, of course, the build differences, I guess.
Well, this is Blade Runner.
Yeah.
And this is Blade Runner Director's Cut.
Yeah, a little, even some may say even 2049.
Well, yeah, when this one, you understand who Decker is.
Yeah.
With that one, maybe you don't.
A lot of questions
Yeah.
left. So yeah, do you want to go through just, comparison-wise? this we've talked about ad nauseum on the channel. Your classic spruce rosewood.
Yeah.
Sitka spruce, worth talking about,
Well, as we're holding them up, let's talk about kind of what's the same, and then we'll go through what's different. So, of course, they're both still grand auditorium guitars. Primarily, they're both still spruce and rosewood. As far as the tone woods, I'll get to more of what I mean by primarily later. They both feature the same V-class bracing. There's going to be slight variations when we talk about that tone wood, because not very talked about, but there are little differences throughout the Taylor lineup as different tone woods get paired together. The V-class bracing changes a little bit, but I digress. The binding is different, but we're talking about same first, okay? So you've got the same rosette, the same pickguard, ebony bridge and fingerboard. The inlay on the fingerboard is the same. You're still liable to get very stripy ebony. I love that Taylor kind of made that choice to feature the figured ebony on the 800 series, and that continues. So the inlay's the same, the shape is the same, the tone woods are roughly the same, and then that's kind of it. They both have an ES2 pickup system and come in a similar case. From there, a lot of it kind of diverges, and you can see kind of just looking at it, the bridge is very different. Yeah. So the Builder's Edition guitars have a softened wing bridge. So that Taylor winged bridge is kind of a classic look. If you're ever seeing someone play online, there's usually dead giveaways. It's a Taylor. One's the shape, 2 is the pickguard if it's got it, and 3 is the bridge. You can kind of always spot what it is they're playing. So that is softened. The idea behind that is if you are palm muting, it's more comfortable than a sharper edge. And it looks really nice to have that softened bit. The other thing that's very noticeable up front that I mentioned was that the binding is different. That features pale maple binding. This is ebony.
And I like that they, extended that motif in the bound sound hole. I love the bound sound hole on guitars just to begin with. This kind of flies under the radar because it almost matches the spruce, but that is bound. But that's a lot more noticeable, which I think I like that they kept the same rosette, but did that little minor difference there. I think it's cool.
Yeah, I wonder, is that ebony that they bound it with? It almost looks like rosewood.
It looks a little lighter than...
It might just be light ebony, but yeah. It's interesting. So that's a big difference. So you're going to see this one also, while they both have like the armrest, that is radiused, and this is beveled. So the bevel is what has been seen throughout pretty much all of the Builder's Edition lines. I have it on a custom guitar. I really like it. It's a little bit more material that's removed, giving you a little bit more of a kind of a breakaway access with the armrest there. And then, of course, that's echoed here like on other Builder's Editions. So you have this bevel going into a convex carve of the cutaway. So if you take a look, actually probably from behind it's easier, there is a shelf on every cutaway guitar and that's the difference between where the heel and the side kind of ends and goes into that. On this guitar, it's not there. This whole side kind of curves along the lines of the neck heel. And so you've got this really comfortable carve there. And as a result, because this is supposed to be really comfortable, on Builder's Edition guitars, they move the strap button so that this is totally unencumbered. You can reach the upper access with a lot of comfort and ease. So that's really nice. While we're here on the back, still East Indian rosewood. This has a edge burst to it, which is really nice. And it's got this purfling framing the binding on the back of it. All of these are chamfered edges too. It's rolled on the front and the back versus your traditional bound kind of
total straight. Yeah, I mean, I like the look of the binding here. I like the stripe, but the purfling just kind of gives it a different sort of look. And I think with the edge burst, it works really well.
Yeah, it frames the edge, creating binding in effect, and then that rolled edge is extremely comfortable on the back as well as on the front. So there's a lot of focus with most of the Builder's Editions on ergonomics and playability. That's certainly seen here. So coming back to the front, that is a Sitka spruce top, and this is an Adirondack spruce top. And it is a 4-piece Adirondack spruce top that's going to be used on all of these as a statement from Taylor. We talked about it a lot in the first video, but there's an emphasis on responsible use of the resources provided and being able to utilize some very modern, high-end production techniques to ensure that there's good joinery and you can use a 4-piece top and make it a really good top. And I still... Since we got this guitar, I've tried repeatedly to go, oh, there's the seam, and then I will second guess myself. So I really can't tell you where it is. Every time I think I have it figured out, I then go, oh, no, probably not.
The seam on this one's it's right down the
middle. Yeah, well, there's one right down the middle here. I just can't see where the other two are.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's there, and then I go, maybe it's there. I don't know. So, and that's probably as it should be.
Yeah. If you can't see it and it doesn't change anything, who
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So coming up here to the headstock, we have Gotos.
We do
Smoked
not.
nickel. Yeah. It's funny. I love these tuners, particularly in antique gold. As I was tuning up both of these guitars, the higher ratio came into play.
Yeah.
And they're just really nice tuners. I like them.
That's one of the upgrades that I think I recommend the most is like if you can do it, get some Gotos on your guitar. It just makes everything better.
Yeah.
But the antique gold kind of brings out, it just kind of draws out different colors, especially even with that the stripy ebony up there. It's just a nice look. I like the smoked nickel Taylor tuners. They're totally fine. They look great. They feel great.
I'm noticing for the first time. So one of the things we talked about is this is the first Builder's Edition that has a gloss finish on it. But the headstock is satin, and the headstock on that's gloss. Interesting. I dig it. I actually really, really like it. I would have been fine if they'd done satin on this whole guitar.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to see what the satin might look like on an 814 Builders.
Give me some sandpaper.
Next video. Next time.
That'd go over real well. I like it. The other thing too that kind of goes under the radar is the neck carve on these Builder's Edition guitars. It's a little bit different. And I kind of demonstrate that a bit in the video, somewhat by accident. And we'll talk a little bit more on the other side, but I do want to talk about a few things before we go into the demo so you can hear the differences between these guitars. Because part of the difference between these guitars is the sound. You've got a different top, so that's going to change the tonality. And the other difference is in the way it feels. With the bevels and the neck carve, everything's going to feel a little bit different with every Builder's Edition guitar, this one included. So to me, these necks are a little bit faster. And as I was playing, you're going to listen to the demo here in a second. I played that guitar first. I played this guitar second. And as I'm playing this guitar, it just kind of dawned on me like, man, this feels really good. It feels faster. How faster is it? Do a little run. It's faster. It just feels really nice and smooth. There's another thing too that I want your ears to be attuned to. Some people ask like, why do you play? Well, first of all, some people go, I appreciate that you play all the same songs on all the guitars because then you can compare them. You're welcome. Other people go, will you please stop playing all the same songs on the same guitars? I'm working on different ones. But when I came up with these demos, it was to illustrate stuff that's going on the guitars if you're paying attention. So there's things with intervals or the style of playing or even an emphasis on particular notes that will bring out certain things, maybe a harshness in certain guitars or a problem with playability and fretwork on certain guitars or just how certain tone woods come together. So as we compare these, pay attention to some of those little things and then we'll talk about it on the other side. So there you have it. Hopefully you were able to get a good listen and pick up on some nuanced differences. But if you couldn't hear it through the magic that is compression on YouTube, I'll tell you kind of what I heard and felt as I was playing these guitars. So first of all, I really like the neck carve on that guitar.
Yeah.
It's really comfortable. I fell in love with it first on I think it was a 517 Builder's Edition.
Yeah.
And I played in Nashville, and it was just like, there's something different. And that's before I was actually told there was something different. You play enough guitars, you'll pick up on the features that aren't even explained a lot of the times. And so I really like the way that plays. This guitar, after I recorded it, Josh made a note listening to it to say, that guitar seems a little bassy for an 814, before I'd even played the Builder's Edition.
Yeah.
Maybe it's one of those special 814 CEs. We get a lot of them in. No guitar is the same. We'll talk about that in another video. And sometimes something sounds a little bassier. So that was definitely something that was picked up here. But the other thing was, between Sitka and Adirondack, there's a tonality difference that I particularly hear in the high register stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Cooper a little bit ago that over the weekend I was playing my old 914C, which is not fair to compare because it's a 20-year-old guitar. It's got an Engelmann top. It's just different. But there is kind of this roundness and maturity to the notes on a guitar like that at the high end, where you can play it and it's just the attack is different. And I hear that between these two guitars. You've played a little bit on them. What do you hear?
I mean, I definitely agree. We have talked, there's so many buzzwords and buzz topics, especially right now with how many people get really into guitar, YouTube, and reading articles and all that stuff. And I think one of the biggest things that everybody talks about right now and for always is, oh, Adirondack, it's got to be better, right? Because it's Adirondack. And we've talked a little bit about the channel, how that's not always the case.
Right.
But it also takes a good builder to use Adirondack the right way and not make it just stiff and harsh. And I think that's one thing that really comes through on this guitar. There's no other Adirondacks in standard production of Taylor right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can get it custom, you can always change it to an Addy top, but it's like with the Flagship guitar and well-used Adirondack that is braced well and just, it adds a little of that extra color and just the kind of pop that I think most people dream about when they say, oh, you got to have Adirondack top on there.
Well, and the way we usually describe Adirondack makes what I experienced is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
So typically Adirondack is described as a little stiffer, a little springier compared to Sitka spruce. It'll have more volume, but like we've talked about, it's usually stiffer when it's new. And Sitka's just a little bit softer, won't give you as much volume, but is a really good all-around guitar. Yeah. And because of some of those descriptions, and because of what I've experienced with softer spruces like European spruce and Engelmann spruce, I would venture to think that when I'm going to play a B on the high E string, that what I'm going to hear is going to be a little mellower on a Sitka spruce top than on an Adirondack top. And with these guitars, it was reversed.
Yeah.
On the Addy top, it's a little mellower in the sense of that leading edge or the attack of the note being different. And it reminds me more of European spruce. And yet the other things are there. When you're strumming the guitar, the note separation and the volume and the projection, it's all there.
Yeah.
And so that's a very different thing. And I don't say that to say that this has some harshness to it. It has harshness in comparison. It's still this very smooth guitar, sound. Yeah. It's just these little nuanced differences that a lot of people wouldn't even pick up on.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to kind of experience that.
I think the big thing, you're talking about things that people may not pick up on, the things that most people will pick up on immediately, the beveled armrest. Mm-hmm. I mean, just kind of a different, more elevated aesthetic. Obviously, the upgraded tuners. And it is not that much more than that guitar.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. We have a lot of these that we're trying to get at launch because it's not much more for Builder's Edition 814 CE, which begs the question, who would choose a regular 814C over that. I mean, if you have pinched pennies and you have saved for your 814 and you can barely, like that is the guitar, totally get it. But if you can swing a few $100s more, was it like $400 or $500 more?
I think it's $300 or $400.
Yeah.
And just doing, if you were to say in the custom shop, I want a 814 exactly how it is, but Goto's beveled and Adirondack.
Forget about it.
It's going to be substantially more.
Forget about it.
That's kind of the whole thing. When we find those guitars that, spec'd out would be much, much more in the custom shop, but are offered as like a standard line thing.
Yeah.
Those are the jewels right there. And this is got 3 of the biggest Taylor custom upgrades that people want.
Yeah.
Goto's, Addy, bevel.
Yep.
And so that alone, I think it holds its value very well.
Well, pricing is subject to change, so you always want to check our website at alamomusic.com to see what the pricing is. But, between you and I always watch the extended editions of the Lord of the Rings movies. I'm going to go with the director's cut, the builder's edition.
You got to get the director's cut.
Yeah. This is still a phenomenal guitar. Taylor's done so much. I mean, the fact that a normal 814 CE comes with the radius armrest is already a testament to what an amazing instrument this is and the things that they've done to improve it for the player, and that just even more so.
Yeah.
And if you prefer a satin finish, I got some quadruple lot steel wool in my back pocket. I'm just kidding.
Boom. There you go.
Who needs a warranty? So, no, I'm just enamored by it. I think it's a phenomenal guitar. And, I will say this. It hits me in a way. Our very, very, very first video on YouTube, don't go look for it. It's very cringy. But it was...
You can't even see it. It's 240p.
It's so old. That was a long time ago. But that very first video was on the newly redesigned 2014 814 CE. Mm-hmm. And I remember looking at that, and I think I said in the video, for a factory-built guitar, this guitar plays too good. Like, it sounds and plays and has a feature set at the price point that you would be hard to find from an individually custom-built luthier-made guitar, to not take anything away from those talented builders. But you spend, depending upon the builder, $15,000 to $30,000.
What was the price of 814 at that time in 2014?
$3,500, I think. Or
10 years ago?
Yeah, 10 years ago. Yeah, it was. We got that at the end of 2013. The video came out in 2014, and I want to say it was like $32.99.
Dang.
Yeah.
Times have changed.
So.
Have fun with your GS Mini now.
So we're excited about the launch of this guitar, and I think the comparison shows that this is really a great step up for not a whole lot of money. If you want more information about this guitar, you should go to...
You're going to want to go to alamomusic.com, all right? And you can see all the Builder's Edition guitars. This guitar dropped on the 10th, and it marks the 10th Builder's Edition model. Obviously, if you take different finishes within there, you got more than that. But there are 10 Builder's Editions now. I have no doubt that this will quickly be the most popular Builder's Edition that's out there. We're coming for your 324. But yeah, you can learn all about this guitar. You can chat with us. You can send us any questions you may have. And hopefully we'll have a steady supply, and they're here waiting for you guys.
Yeah, we tried to load up here at the beginning. I know how these go. These guitars take longer to make. Yeah. They just do, because of all the features. And so, if you want one, get in early, because then you're just going to end up on a list.
Yeah.
So, not a bad place to
Not a bad place.
Speaking of lists, if you're new to the channel, get on our list. And that you do by subscribing and hitting the like button and commenting and telling us what you think between these two guitars. Could you hear the differences? Do you think it's a good and valuable upgrade to the Builder's Edition version? Let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And keep coming back for more. We'll keep making guitar videos for you. And we'll see you next time.